welcome to the Money Tree. I'm David Holt.
And I'm David Marks.
And this is our third episode.
For Season 2.
2.3.
That's right.
I hope that as we go through, I'll remember to say that every time. Or, we could put it on our notes.
Well, I do have
great topic.
Season 2, Episode 3.
Well, we'll see next time. We're going to continue Episode 3 into Episode 4. So I'm just trying to make
It's like a 2-part series. So at the end of this one, if you grew up in the 80s or early 90s, you might remember that they would always try to keep you in suspense by having that
cliffhanger.
That's right. They would have to be continued. So ours will be a to be continued today. We have a really important informational, not that they're never important or informational, but this one really hits home to people who may be looking to go to college or someone who has already finished college.
So you're talking about college debt.
We are going to be talking about college debt, and that's something that is kind of near and dear to my heart, and I hope that we can give good information.
It's dear?
It is. Not the D-E-E-R, but D-E-A-R. Kind of like Dear John Levy. It's near and dear to my heart because there's so many people who are affected by this, and I myself have student loan debt. So
my student loan debt is paid off, although I've been working for 34 years, so I would hope that it'd be paid by now.
Right. Well, and we're actually going to dive into the whole parameters of, there's your 50-cent word for the day, parameter. We're going to dive into that to show how that if you are fresh out of college, or even if you're like myself and you're 10 years, a little over 10 years into your career, how you may have some relief that you didn't know that you have. So
that is a foreshadowing event.
It is foreshadowing. So we have covered suspense and foreshadowing. What else do we have to do?
Keep you interested to stay tuned, I guess.
Right, stay tuned.
Oh, and by the way, we decided to put on a coat.
Yes, we decided that we needed to step up our game a little bit.
Exactly.
So
we're trying to do better.
We are game steppers. Stepping in the game. I really feel like that people enjoy things that they can have a little fun and laugh at and be entertained by. And I know it's very dry to talk about finances and talk about money sometimes.
Especially when you don't have any.
Right. So maybe that's an element that we're missing, is that we need to try to have a little bit, well, my humor probably wouldn't be good. I have a very dry sense of humor, so I might turn people off. But,
He's very frugal, ladies and gentlemen. I must say that I've been involved in the family for 34, 33 years. Mm-hmm. As long as I can remember, he's pinched every penny he could for every dime he could.
Right. Well, I think that's what we have to do. And, of course, our federal government has just hopefully got over the hurdle of the shutdown. So those of you who are federal employees who were not getting to go back to work, hopefully we have an end in sight for that, and you'll be able to get. Now, I've got a friend that's in Afghanistan right now. I have several friends I went to high school with who are in the military, and he sent me a picture Saturday night that was, they have an Armed Forces Network, which is their TV network, and all they had was a picture that says, due to government shutdown, there is no Armed Forces Network. So he's like, this is great,
No TV.
So no TV. He missed the football games yesterday. So before we begin, of course, we always want to thank Mountain Valley Newspaper for hosting this and for allowing us to do the work we do. Also, Farmers TV Channel 6.
And WVSM, AM 1500, 103.1 FM, Rejoice.
Yeah, they do a wonderful job getting us out there. For those of you who just detest seeing us, there's another 50-cent word. You detest seeing us on the television, you can always listen to us. But, of course, we want you to watch online because you can't get the full scope of who we are unless you're sitting there seeing this wonderful picture.
Well, I can tell you, almost every week someone stops me and asks about it or says something, they saw it, and they're talking about how smart you were.
I don't know if that's the case.
They were.
But,
I must admit. I didn't have to pay them or anything.
That makes me feel better. You know what? I hope that the people in the audience that watch this are feeling smart also, and here's why. If you had listened to a couple of our stock picks, one of them being Sorrento Therapeutics, you could have bought this at a little over $2 a share. It closed today at $7.90.
We tried to tell the camera guy, and he wouldn't purchase, and now he's wishing he could have.
He was probably gun shy. Also, the Robinhood app, gosh, I don't want to get on this too much, but the Robinhood app now allows you to do a stop loss, so that if you buy stock and you don't want to lose too much on it, you can actually set up a sale not to lose money on that, or you can actually put it on there to set it up to default. If you buy stock at $3 a share and you really want to get $5, you can set it up to sell it for you at $5 a share.
So we probably need to have an updated version on the Robinhood app pretty soon, because with those kinds of parameters set on it, I'm actually thinking about trying it.
Yes.
Because I must say, even with I know better, when the lottery ticket got over 350,000, I did purchase one or two, and of course, got no return on that money. If I had taken that money I spent on that, I could be making money through the Robinhood app. So I'm going to do better.
Okay, and I
And
know
you said today before we started, if you'd have let me set that up for
Sure.
you, and I didn't, so I'm going to.
Well, we have a new little feature that we do with the money tree, and I've been posting some updates on our Twitter page and on our Facebook page about stocks. You may want to look at it. Here's the thing about it: if you're not on Robinhood and you will go to our Twitter account or you'll go to our Facebook page, you can actually sign up for Robinhood through a link that we supply, and if you use that link, you get a free share in a company. So they will actually give you money to sign up. So it doesn't cost you anything. Now, of course, you can start putting money into it, and it may give you a share of Apple, and it may give you a share of something small, like a $3 or $4 stock. But you get a free share in a company, and it costs you nothing. So you're already in the green there when you start.
It's called a better use of your money, and you could even drive to Trenton to buy a lottery ticket for that.
That's right. So today, I guess if we can, the money fact today is going to play in part with what we're discussing today, which is, again, we've already said, is student loan debt. So the federal student loan program profited.
They made money, in other words.
They made money, $1.6 billion in 2016. So they made money. Now, for something to be a profit of $1.6 billion, that tells you that there has to be something. If I loan you money but I make no profit, I charge no interest. So how is the federal government making money on those loans?
Charging interest to those of you that went back to school and you borrowed money to go to college.
Yes.
And some of you have a huge amount of debt. And so hopefully after this show, you'll learn ways that you can begin to get out from under that debt.
Right. And $1.2 trillion is the amount of roughly, now of course those numbers fluctuate day to day, but the student loan debt in America is $1.2 trillion. That is the debt that we owe on college tuition, the American citizens do. And the average debt, the average outstanding debt is $37,000 and some change. It's actually $37,172. And here's the thing about it. There's over 7 million people with student loan debt right now that are in default. So that means that they're behind on their student loan payments. Why do you think that is?
They don't think it's important to pay back, but it is.
It is important, but not just that. And this is just some advice. And guys, I don't want to knock the underwater basket weavers of the world because I know they have a big union and we don't want any hate comments on our Facebook page. See, there's where the dry humor David just doesn't. But
I got it. I just let it go.
Yeah, he just let it go. But the people who go to college and they rack up $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 in student loan debt to get a degree in underwater basket weaving, it's going to be hard for you to pay that money back because your job field is probably not going to supply you with the type of income, if you can find a job, to cover that debt that you have. So a lot of people who get those degrees, they get it, and just as an educator, it would not be wise to have $100,000 in student loan debt to be an educator.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to take you 4 years of work, straight up gross salary, to even think about paying that back. So you're not even going to make enough, most likely to pay back that student loan debt if you contributed all of your income to it.
And the other thing, people go to college today and oftentimes, I won't say today, oftentimes people have gone to college to get a degree at a certain particular university because they were fans of the football team or the basketball team or whatever. And when they got a degree from there, it had nothing to do with the jobs in their area where they want to live.
Right.
So there's another thing people need to really research, or young people especially, the career options that they have available to them in the area in which they want to live.
So let's say that you want to be a computer programmer. DeKalb County is not going to have a lot of jobs. However, Huntsville would. So you would need to look at relocating.
Or be not complaining about your drive every day to commute to work.
Right. If you want to make that big bucks and have that job, you've got to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead, if we can, and we're going to cover student loan types with you today, and then after that we're going to start getting into the student loan forgiveness programs. Now that's where we're going to run into our to be continued and go into the second part of this, because even though I can't be super thorough, and of course there's all kind of information we'll have out there for you at moneytreetv.org, there's still things that we're going to try to cover, but we can't cover it all. It just takes a lot of time. So we're going to try to give you those resources. So first, do you know what types of student loans there are? There's two major types.
Two major types. Probably, well, back in the day, mine was state
Back in the
funded.
day, this is a old commie company.
Mine was state funded.
Okay. Well, there's basically governmental,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's private.
Okay.
So we might say federal and private because a lot of times the state doesn't really get into that market. It's more
Maybe not today,
right.
but back in those days,
They did.
They did.
So the federal government came in under this umbrella with the United States Department of Education. Of course, they started the what program? Federal. What do we call it? FAFSA.
FAFSA. Yeah, I don't know what it stands for, but I know you had to do it.
Federal. I don't remember. Anyway, I can't. It's been a long day. So they have that program where you go online and you apply, and once you do, they tell you how much you can borrow, and there are limits to that. So let's go ahead.
And also, let me just say,
Sure,
once you fill out the FAFSA, will tell you how much you can get for free.
Right, because with doing your federal student aid there with FAFSA, then you can be qualified for grants up to $5,800 a year, I believe it is. It may be $5,950 now. But there's almost $6,000 a year that you can get. Now, if you go to the University of Alabama,
I think it's a semester.
Is it a semester?
I think so.
Okay, I was thinking it was anyway. Even if it's $6,000 a semester, okay, and you go to the University of Alabama, your tuition and cost for everything for the first year is probably going to be about $26,000.
It's got a drop in the bucket.
Right. So it will not cover all of it, and we're actually going to give you an idea of how you can cover the rest of that. But I think it would be wise in the state of Alabama to look at the junior college or the community college system because your cost is going to be drastically less. Just to give you an idea, Northeast, you may be spending between $6,000 and $8,000 a year compared to $26,000 a year at Alabama. Not knocking Alabama because if you go on, you can't finish a 4-year degree at Northeast. Well, unless you do something with Athens State, but also keep in mind, if you want to be a teacher, Jacksonville State's a great way to go. Okay, because
Athens
Online because it's close by. If you want to be an engineer, then sure you might be looking at UAH or Auburn, or of course one of the biggest engineering schools in the state is the University of Alabama. Most people don't know that; they think Auburn's bigger, but whatever. So let's look at the type of loans if we can. Let's look at our first slide. Our first slide, we're going to cover federal loans. And there are different loans that I've broken this down into, if we can go over that for just a moment. Okay. The first one is Stafford loans. Now, this is monies that come directly from the federal government, going back to that $1.6 billion they've made. Okay. Would you like to cover the two different types of Stafford loans?
Subsidized and unsubsidized. That's
right.
hard to say.
That is it's a tongue twister there. Subsidized loans means that the interest builds while you're in school, but you do not have to make a payment. Unsubsidized is where you have to make payments only on the interest while you're in school. Now, it's important to tell anyone out there, students, listen up. You need to wake up here, pay attention, sit back up in your seat. Because if you are taking out student loans and you quit, they don't just say, that's okay. When you quit school, immediately your payments start happening. Whereas most of them qualify for a 6-month deferral rate to where you do not have to start paying until 6 months after you graduate. They give you 6 months to get a job. So that's when you finish. So just keep that in mind. Looking back at our slide, the second one I've covered is Perkins loan. Now, it's important to know that the Perkins loan ended September 30th, 2017. So these loans are no longer in existence. And the Perkins loan was a little bit different because the government actually paid your interest while you were in school. So it was a good loan program, but I'm sure the federal government probably looked at this and said, we're losing a lot of money here, so we're going to have to cut this loan out. And that's exactly what they did.
Right. The next one I've never really heard of, the PLUS loans.
It is. It's the parent loan for undergraduate students. This would be something that parents would take out. Now, students can also. It's an additional loan. If you can't meet your financial obligation, like we said, if your Stafford loan does not cover all of your expenses for the University of Alabama, then your parents can look at taking out a PLUS loan. And of course, the PLUS loan may also be something that covers the cost of your books or something else if your Stafford loan does not cover all of those expenses. A lot of times you may, with grants and with everything else, you may have enough in with your student loans to cover everything. But just in case you do not, they have the PLUS loan program for typically parents who do this. And our other information that you need to know, Federal loans offer flexible repayment options. So what they do, they have several different programs to where you can pay. It's like a graduated system to where you can pay as you earn. Okay. They also have that deferral program that I told you about. Now, the next part is we're going to get into after we cover the private loans is they have loan forgiveness program. So it's the federal government being the entity that they are, they can write the law to kind of be have the monopoly, if I can use that loosely, have the monopoly over private lenders. Okay. Now, also the big kicker with federal loans is there's no credit check required. Now, if you're a high school sophomore or junior, let me give you some advice. If there's a purchase you're thinking about making $500 or less, go to a bank and borrow that money and pay it back. Okay. Now, typically you don't want that. Okay. But the reason I say that is because when you do that, you're starting to establish your credit. And while you may not need it for things like student loans, and this will actually help build your credit because it is a loan, you do want to have a higher credit score if possible, because even a little bit lower or a good credit score is better than no credit at all. Because when you have no credit at all, typically you'll pay a higher interest rate. Okay. So make sure you do that. So no credit check required for the federal loans. That's important. Also, you need to make sure that you know there are forgiveness programs. Now let's roll over, take a few minutes to look at private loans, and this is on slide number 2. Now, this is offered by multiple private lenders. Several different banks do this. Of course, you can shop around and see which one you think is competitive. Interest rates are typically higher than federal loans. Of course, going back, the federal government can kind of set a lower rate because banks are a private institution trying to make money, and the federal government, well, they are still making money, but they can be a little bit more flexible. A credit score of 640 or better is required. So if you look at doing a private loan, you're going to have a halfway decent, if I can use that, credit score. Okay. Also, some may be deferred until after graduation from college. However, some may not. So they may require you kind of like to subsidize and unsubsidize. They may require you to start making payments while you're in school. Okay.
So that's one of the things you need to think about when you start thinking about furthering your education past high school.
Absolutely.
There is so much to consider.
Yes.
Not only is the tuition right off the bat, that's just to be able to go. There are fees associated with that. Your books. It's amazing that for one particular class you can spend $400 to $500 on one single book. And then you want to turn around and turn it back in and sell it, and they'll offer you $20, $25.
Right, and if you are in college, this is just a little free bonus we'll throw in here. If you're in school and you can. Now, sometimes you can't. You've got to have online codes, things like that. But there is different programs out there like Chegg that will let you rent your books for the semester. So that's a good way to go because it's pennies on the dollar compared to what you're going to pay for the book. But like I said, sometimes you have to have licensed online codes, and those will not include that. So just be sure you know what you're doing.
And additionally to that, we hadn't even begun to talk about the living expenses for those of you who move off to college somewhere, rather than living at home or being able to commute back and forth to their institution you're wanting to go to. Rent on an apartment that you're only going to live in for 2 years at most, hopefully, knock on wood. The utilities, the groceries, the insurance, all those kinds of things come into play.
Absolutely.
And they are not covered by any kind of scholarship.
Right, and so that's where these private loans a lot of times, can be used by folks. You can use that. However, just remember, if you have a federal loan, you do have forgiveness options. But if you're borrowing money from, let's say, Discover, they're probably going to offer you, depending on your credit score, an interest rate of 6 to 7%. And if you're paying your expenses with that, you're really financing your future away. Because with private loans, there is no forgiveness option. So just be very careful. If you're going to move off to school, have a game plan, have a job that you can work, have some way to provide income so that you're not burying yourself in debt right out of college. Because that's the mistake that's being made today.
Well, and one of the things I can't stress enough is have a conversation with your child. Children, have one with your parents.
Yes.
Talk about it. So many times young people that I run into, they don't have this conversation with their parent. They don't really know how to address it. But furthering your education in whatever that is, a certificate, just an associate's degree, which I say just an associate's degree, but it's stopping there.
Essential. Yeah.
Some of those can really make the difference in your income
Right.
from associate's to a 4-year degree by doubling it almost.
Right.
So there are really good jobs for tradespeople that can go straight to work. There's straight certifications, and you have a small amount of college debt, and you can begin to pay that off very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there are tons of free money out there, and you wouldn't have to go down this route, but that requires you to do a lot of work prior to. For example, GPA score starts really in the 9th grade. 9th, 10th, and 11th grade are going to determine what your GPA is.
Yes.
That's important, but also the courses that you're taking, preparing you for the ACT, the all-important ACT score. And more as I'm learning, it's so important for young parents to read to their children. Saw a study just the other day that if you read to your child for 20 minutes a day, by the time they get to the 6th grade, it's like they have had 120-something extra school days of instruction.
Wow.
Just by building the vocabulary. And the least amount of time you spend with your child, the fewer and fewer gains are going to make. And it's been proven that ACT score is a direct reflection of reading books. So I know that doesn't sound like it's a lot of fun to some people. However, we've lost the art of reading and building vocabulary, even though you spout off a few of the special words, Owen.
Yeah, maybe that's why my ACT score wasn't too high. Maybe I didn't read enough.
Well, just trying to help you not have to borrow so much money.
Absolutely. Well, and that gets us back into what we're going to be discussing now, which is loan forgiveness. Because let's say that you were the David Markses of the world and you didn't score high enough on an ACT score to get a scholarship or anything like that, and you are going to go to college. That's your plan, and that's your calling in life, if I can use that loosely. So now let's say that you're going to go to school and you have to borrow money. Your first option always, of course, is to look for the federal government, look for those Stafford loans. Because remember, Perkins loan, it doesn't exist anymore. So you take out this subsidized Stafford loan. Why do you want to do subsidized?
I don't know why.
Because your interest is not being paid until after you graduate. It's still building. But if you do unsubsidized, now you can do that, but you've got to have, that's additional income you would have to pay, on top of your other expenses.
So deferred interest payment is what you mean by subsidized.
Absolutely. So remember, this is only available through federal loans, but now let's talk about loan forgiveness for just a moment. Let's look at our third graphic.
Graphic? You mean slide?
I mean slide, graphic. It's all the same. So our third graphic is Public Service Loan Forgiveness. PSLF. This is the first one now. These are the loans that qualify, and I tried to break this down, and again, we're going to have more and more the next time we record, the next time we have a show for you guys. First of all, you need to know that direct, subsidized, and unsubsidized loans qualify for this.
Really?
Direct plus loans and direct consolidated loans. That word consolidated is very important because what a lot of institutions will do is they will do your loans, like chunk it up in each semester. So fall would be a loan, spring would be a loan, next fall would be a loan. So when you finish school, you can actually consolidate those loans into one loan. So you want to make sure that you know that you qualify for loan forgiveness even if it's consolidated. If it didn't apply to that, then you would have all these little mini loans you might could apply to. Now, I think it's great to see that the plus loan falls into this category. So if you're a parent and you're having to take out those additional expenses, you need to see if the next qualifications that we give, your loan may qualify for loan forgiveness. Now, this is where it's important, and I know that we've been talking for 20, 25 minutes almost to try to get to this point, but please pay attention. If you have one of these type loans, this may be the qualifications that you have to meet to see if you can get this forgiven. We're going to, it's giving you free money, basically.
Free money is good for all of us.
It is. Looking back to that slide, the qualifications, you have to make 120 on-time payments towards the loan. So that's why it's important that for 10 years, you pay on that loan on time, that you do not let that lapse, because when you go into default, you remove yourself from having the qualifications to get this. Secondly, payments must be under a qualifying plan, which means that you have to check and make sure that if you're doing a graduated scale plan, it may not fit. You have to make sure that you're paying the amount they request you to pay. thoroughly. Qualifying plans include income-based repayment. Right there. If you do that type of repayment, you can qualify. Pay-as-you-earn repayment. There's another one that is you earn higher income. Revised pay-as-you-earn. Income contingency and standard repayment. So really the federal government's very flexible with this, that they're like, hey, even if you have to pay us a little bit and start paying us more as you get raises in your job, you can still qualify for the loan forgiveness. Last thing we see here, you must work full-time at a qualifying organization. That means if you are a teacher, in a Title I school, and we're going to get a little bit more in depth next time, if you work there for 3 to 5 years, if you have made 10 years worth of payments, and if you have one of the type of qualifying loans, like a pay-as-you-earn or whatever it may be, a standard payment, you may qualify to have your loan forgiven or reduced. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're trying to get you to. Now, the reason why they make you do the 10-year repayment plan is because they want to make sure that you're not just going to go to school, get out of college, and pay 1 year and drop it. Because remember, this is still a money maker for the federal government. So they're going to make sure that you're meeting your obligation, because when you borrow money to go to college, you're borrowing against your own future. Mm-hmm. That's why it's important to see. If you go to a bank, they want you to put up collateral. Well, the collateral you're putting up with the federal government is you're saying,
your future.
I'm going to make something of myself. Give me that chance.
Well, it's the same thing with physicians. Lots of physicians go to school and they rack up an enormous amount of debt. And so they're offset that to be to a thing that will help defer some of their payment would be to work in a very rural area.
Yeah, and we're going to actually talk about physicians and nurses next time when we can get around to this. I know that we have given a lot of information, I feel like, but I feel like it was good information. And this is going to be the ... to be continued.
The ... to be continued.
Right.
There you go. But just remember, none of us, well, I don't know many people who have a huge nest egg to pay for college or continuing education. So if you've been in that boat or are there, or you think that's where you're going to end up, we've been trying to give you some ideas of how to handle the expense of college in the future. We both said we both went to college, we both had to borrow money to go to college, and we both had to pay it back.
Yes. And, here's the thing. I know that we give out a lot of information on here. We work really hard to have this information on our website and on our Facebook page. But the website, we can give a lot more detail than we can on the Facebook page. Mm-hmm. But it's moneytreetv.org. You can click on the episodes, and they're listed by the seasons, 1 and now 2. And when you go to Season 2, Episode 3, all of the notes that we have on here will be there. The slides, the pictures that we use, those graphics are also under the video that you can see, so that you can go back and pull up that individual slide and read the information off of it. We'll also have links that you can follow so that you can go back, and we'll try to get information where you can click on that type of loan if you're there. It takes a little bit of time to build.
Maybe if you've heard something and you're like, what did they say? I'm not so sure I got that.
Right.
There's the resource to go back and look at it again. Or maybe you're talking about it with a coworker at work and saying, did you hear what those guys, I think they said, and go back and pull it up. We have the research specialist here to go back and research.
I'm trying to put time into that. Now, I had a lot of time off last week since we had weather days. Guys, remember, it's always important that you visit Mountain Valley Newspaper. You can also find our videos there. You can see where we're there, and you can go back and watch us on their Facebook page. And, they're very gracious in allowing us to do that and giving us the time there.
Patsy is a joy.
All right. And we have Farmers TV Channel 6, Friday nights at 7, that you can watch us, I believe it is.
And also WVSM, AM 1500 in Rainsville, 103.1 FM Rejoice. We want to thank Kay, Mark, Miss Annie Ruth, and all the folks there for playing the audio version. And people are listening to that. So we really appreciate you guys, and we hope you'll tell your friends about us.
And remember, you cannot have financial peace without first knowing the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. So make sure you have your priorities in life.
Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.